Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is Blacklight on Sports. My name is Charles Hallman,
I'm Dr. Mitchell Palmer McDonald.
and we thank you for joining us. Tonight we have Macalester Athletic Director Donnie Brooks, um, a young man who I met several years ago when he first came here, and we've been wanting to talk with him, and he's been gracious enough to come and join us tonight. Appreciate it, Donnie, for coming in.
I'm glad you called me young. It felt young in a minute, but great to be here with y'all.
Well, Donnie, you have you might be the only black athletic director in the state of Minnesota, and if you're not, you're close to it.
Yeah,
Um, in terms of just, but you're in a conference that is
yeah,
very prestigious. I
yeah.
mean, there's not very few conferences within the state of Minnesota. There's very few conferences that
hmm
are within a complete state and a high prestigious conference. Macalester was not always known as a athletic powerhouse, but you would seem to make some inroads since you've been there, and now you're making strides. And you talked about that a little bit. But talk about that more, just what you think that this school can be uh, moving forward.
Yeah, I'll first say I played Division III athletics and kind of have seen this conference from afar, and just being a juggernaut in sports, specifically in a sport like football. They're just names you would hear every year. You'd hear St. John's or Concordia, Gustavus, and more recently now Bethel's really turned on, and so you knew like the MIAC was just a powerhouse conference, but the schools, like you said, there's no slouches academically either. There may be one. I'm not going to talk about them on film today or on the podcast today, but I do think that that kind of my evolution or my development has come a lot through the ability to be in spaces like these where it's been academics have been a priority, but also at the center of the work I do, I get to develop a student athlete. So while I've had some experience in a Division I setting, the scholarships, the big stadiums, all of that never really like that wasn't the pull for me. The work developing students has always really been the draw for me. And the draw to Macalester was for a couple reasons. One is because they hadn't really done it at a high level, and I think there's some really great jobs out there. So y'all know, Division III is like one of the best places to be right now.
True.
The transfer portal can impact us, and NIL there is some of it, but if your job that you love, like I love mine, like being at a game, like the worst part of my day is like after working a long day, I got to go watch a game with my students showcasing themselves. Like that's if that's the worst part of your day, that's a pretty good day. So I think as you've seen Caleb Williams, who left the MIAC and left Macalester to go get a scholarship at the University of Minnesota. This is high level talent. Many of these kids pass up on scholarship opportunities to take opportunities at schools in the MIAC. So I get excited every day about the opportunity to go and watch us like develop into champions. And then I was mentioning like the hard job that I saw from afar. I think when I got to Macalester in 2019, like for the previous 5 years in our, I would call it the Commissioner's Cup or your conference standings
hmm
for all sports, we were either last or next to last. And now, if you look at the last 3 years, we're in the middle and moving towards a top middle. I think the thing I probably underestimated was actually how deep the conference is.
Okay.
To get to the middle was hard. To get to the top is like a new phase of work, and we've got challenges ahead, but it's a challenge we're ready to take on. I think our students now, once you've like competed and become competitive, there's this hunger about us, and from the first year students to the seniors, they enjoy the battles, but also like we've got some folks in our sites who we know if we're gonna get to the next level we're gonna have to beat them. So I really enjoy when the best teams in the conference come into town. And this year, you probably have been at some games where you see us and you're like, man, this team could compete. Or maybe if we had a little bit more depth,
Yeah.
but we are feeling really positive about the direction. But also we feel positively because we're doing it the right way. I'm not paying anybody to, and nobody's, you know, because if you pay one of them, you got to start paying everybody. Our students typically are going to leave practice or leave a game and head to the library or, get on the bus for on our away trip and do homework. I get to really focus on saying, how do I help these young people excel in all areas of their life? And as long as we keep keeping the main thing, and recruiting great students who want to focus on the main thing, I will tell you in time we're going to be really successful.
Well, what convinced you that athletic administration would be a career path for you?
I had a great opportunity as a young man to work at a camp. Y'all ever heard of Camp Out at Water in Massachusetts? It's like one of two historically African American summer camps
Yeah, I've heard of it.
in the country. And when I was working there, the athletic director at Camp Atwater, as I was like a counselor and coaching and teaching some sports, said to me, he said, if you want to teach, go to Springfield College, and if you want to coach and teach, go to Springfield College. That camp was run by the Urban League of Springfield, Mass, and they had started a charter school. And several years later, they said, "Hey, we got a charter school. Would you like to come up and be our athletic director?" So I was coaching at the college level, and
Mm-hmm.
then also working at that charter school part time. And like, although I really enjoyed coaching football, the job that I woke up thinking about every day
Mm-hmm.
was the charter school AD job.
Mm.
And there's one thing when you get to coach a D line and you're coaching running backs, but there's something else when you're serving a large group of students, where we were building programs that did not exist. And I was fortunate enough to coach some teams. Our basketball team, their first year of varsity, made it to the state championships. Got a nice write up in the Boston Globe. Like that experience of seeing students get what they need to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
and then achieve what they can, their wildest dreams, drew me to administration. So I've been fortunate since then to work with some great student athletes, and that's a success. Like I'd love to win more championships and wear rings and hoist trophies.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, where I feel like I'm taking scores, like where are my kids? When I go on LinkedIn, what are my students doing who I coached or who I was an administrator for 10, 15 years later? So just to see, students go on and do great things, and know even if, like I wasn't there, sitting anywhere helping out with business plans, but ultimately bringing in folks who can impact their career trajectory and making sure that alumni connections were made. Those kind of things were the things that I value. So when I see them go off to work at Morgan Stanley, or start their own businesses, or even on Facebook being successful in raising their families, like that to me ultimately is the win. Two students who I think I'm probably most proud of right now. I got to work when I was at the charter school with a young woman. Her name is Bilquis Abdul Kadir, and you may have heard of her because she sued FIBA in order for players to be able to wear hijabs. And Bilquis has laid the foundation for many kids who wanted to go play Division I basketball, and she went to Memphis from a tiny charter school of Massachusetts, to go and get a Division I scholarship. But like just to track her trajectory and see her putting on camps for young Muslim women, and she became an inspiration for another young Muslim woman, Dia Fortenberry, who's a former athlete of mine at Millsaps College down in Jackson, Mississippi. And Dia now is working at Wesleyan, which is a elite private institution in Middletown, Connecticut. She's an assistant athletic director there, but I've been able to follow her trajectory and to watch her and Bill Keith do camps and connect now.
Mhm.
Is like this is what it's all about, and why I take a lot of pride in the work I get to do, and hope to do this for a long time to come.
Um,
As you think back in your career, were there any people that come to mind that mentored you, or
Yeah.
people that you looked up to, or people that guided you and helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I think the first I talked to him this morning is, my mentor. I call him Uncle Billy, a guy by the name of Billy McBride. Billy was a football player at Tennessee State.
Mm,
Billy went on to do a lot of things, including playing the CFL and work at, a small private high school in New York. But ultimately, he became the assistant football coach and then assistant athletic director, now associate athletic director at Amherst College. So,
mm,
like, Amherst, top two liberal arts college in the country, billions on billions of dollars. But the way I've seen and watched him navigate that space, but my first job offers out of grad school were at Williams College and Amherst. These two elite private academic institutions, rivals, not a whole lot of us working there. And so
mm.
I'm interviewing at both at the same time. And of course, when you go to a school like that, they're gonna have you meet with the brother in the department,
Of
the
course,
black person in the
of
department.
course.
I sat there with him. He gave me several pieces of advice, and he knew what job was going to be best for me. He knew that at Amherst there was a job as an assistant football coach, and that was probably going to top out where I could be there. But he said it in the most polite way. He said two things. He said, you know, negotiate to win,
Hmm.
and the second and most important, he said, at the end of the day, you have to decide what is in the best interest of your family. I had a baby on the way, and he's like, when you put these side by side, he said it should be pretty easy to tell what the best one is for your family. And therefore, I ended up as a rival school at his rival institution, but asked him the entire way to be my mentor, and he's still that today. The second and the other probably most important person who I'd call like a father in administration was a guy by the name of Harry Sheehy. And Harry went to Williams College, played ball there, was really engaged in like athletes in action. But he went back to Williams to become the head basketball coach and ultimately the athletic director. And although Harry probably didn't know all of the intricacies of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? But he knew what he was doing when he hired me, and I hope that doesn't sound cocky, but he knew, and through a grant through the NCAA was allowed to enhance diversity at the institution, ultimately kind of giving me a pathway that wasn't available. When you go to one of these kind of schools, and I don't think I hope I don't make it seem like it's all about this, but what Billy McBride and Harry Sheehy both did was help me understand what the brand meant. You know what I mean? Target is a brand, you know what I mean? Bose is a brand, and you could go get some nice stuff from other stores, but when you have this brand, there's a certain quality that comes with that. There's certain expectations that come with that as well. Harry bringing me there allowed both me to see what's possible, but allowed other folks to see what's possible when you embrace uh, everybody's true assets that they can bring to the table. So he did that without changing me. He and other folks there just kind of like brought me in, taught me the culture, and then allowed me to do my thing, which is ultimately why I am where I am today. Harry, uh, after 4 years there, he went to Dartmouth and took the job there and kind of said, "Hey, I don't have a job for you, but get your car pointed north." And that's when I made that jump to the Ivy League to initially say I'm going in full-time administration, but also to understand the brand and what opportunities existed at Division I and in the Ivy League. But I learned so much from both those two gentlemen as leaders, as parents and fathers and husbands, and they're a big part of why I am where I am today.
We both covered Division I sports and Division III, well, all three
Yeah.
divisions basically. but I've always loved MEAC.
Yeah.
The MEAC game. I love the atmosphere. I love, the fact that when the game is over with, family is on the floor,
Yeah.
walk around,
Yeah.
talk to people. In the Division One, you got roped around. You can't,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't go here, you can't go there. I like that atmosphere. And how do you create that atmosphere so that it exists and it fits in with the rest of the league?
Yeah. I don't know if I think one of our core values at Macalester is community, right? And so I don't want to see it written on a sheet of paper. I want to know what it looks like. Like, what does it look like when it's done right? And what community looks like is, you bring in your kids, your grandkids, and they could feel like the most special person when they walk into our gym. They could go sit courtside. Everybody got a courtside seat if you want one, and you come early enough to any game at Macalester. Popcorn still $2. We have not tracked with inflation. We want everybody to come and feel like it's the best ticket in town. But if we really hit the mark, students or children should leave there saying like, "Oh, I could see myself doing this. Like this is actually legit, a little fun. Not a little fun, but it's a legit experience. It was good basketball. They saw somebody dunk a basketball, but also, at halftime they go get a couple shots up. And for me, we have a one of our local players, Robert Grace,
Yeah.
and I see his little cousins, I think, and they'll come in and after the game they'll get shots up, and I just I remember walking up to him and saying, "This for you. You'll see my son out there, and my daughter out there hanging out after games, but I want them to know that this is for them." I also want one of those lessons I was telling you that I learned from my mentors is like you own this space, and I want people to feel like they're a part of it and they have ownership in this. Although they didn't have to buy a ticket price, I want them to feel like they're a part of the Macalester family. So that is kind of a expectation. We flirted with the should we charge for games, and I've really um, uh, been an opponent of that because I really like the experience folks can have by enjoying the essence of Division 3 and what it's all about. I think the next phase for us is to do a better job of helping them get to know who the students are. Because I think if parents knew the stories of our kids, those are the people who I want my kids. My students are who I want my kids to be just like. And so I do think, it's a part of who we are and what we do. And it starts with your core values, but not really just what they read like on paper, but like what does it look like in action? And that's what community looks like in action to us. Yeah.
So, Donnie, we have a political climate has changed dramatically
Yeah.
since January. And how much have an impact, or has it had an impact, or do you see an impact on Macalester and schools like yours when you have an administration talking about phasing out Department of Education, or talking about this, or talking about that, and limiting opportunities for people that look like us? We've only been a month into it. Has it been? Is there any fear that you might not be able to weather this storm?
Yeah, it's interesting that if you work at an institution of higher education, you have to be a little concerned right now because there's just so much coming so fast. And I know we have, as I've heard before, blackness is not a monolith, and we got folks who have all kind of political ideologies.
Mm.
But Macalester, if you know about it, has leaned probably a little left. Somebody explained to me Macalester when I first came. They said you got, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News, and Macalester is just left of all of that.
Yep.
Um, and I do think that we as an institution, have some strong core values and things that we believe in. And that means supporting the least of all, those folks who have been most marginalized. and it's a part of our history and our ethos. Folks like Coach Don Hudson, who was the first black football coach in the modern era of a predominantly white institution. So being who we are, yeah, there's a fear that schools like ours, particularly those schools, private liberal arts colleges with larger endowments, could be looked at differently and treated differently in a way. But I do believe, first things first, leadership is everything. I've got the best and most competitive president in the country. She's about 4'9", and her prized possession is a basketball trophy on her desk that sits about this tall. She was a president. She was she's a player on a team with like 7 players in middle school. And that means nobody could get hurt and nobody could get injured.
Mhm.
And like the point guard on that team probably had to drive it a little bit, and that's how she drives our institution. And so we're moving forward with strong convictions, understand that taking care of the least of all is still the main thing. And in spite of all of the things that are under attack, we're going to do a really good job of taking care of our students first, but also saying that we know that there are challenges ahead, but we're going to attack them optimistically and strategically. And makes you really proud to be a part of that kind of institution. So I've got a Latina president. I got a black woman who is the number two, the provost. My boss is the vice president of student affairs, an Asian woman. Like you could go all over the country and not find a makeup like the senior administration at Macalester.
Mhm.
But the fact that Macalester is who we say we are, and there's a black athletic director, black head basketball coach. Like when you go around, our students can say, although I'm gonna tell y'all now, Macalester students protest everything, and we're not gonna stop that. I still am the administration, but they also can look around and say, "Hey, Donnie, I'd like to ask you some questions about this or that. I really value your perspective on this." And I could close my door and have some uniquely black conversations with students. Like that's really important and something that not every student will get to do at an institution like mine. So while there is fear, I will say, I got one job, and that's to take care of the students who I serve every day, no matter whether you pick up a ball and score, 25 points a game, or whether you're a club sport athlete, or whether you just play intramurals and you need somebody to talk to on a small campus like ours. I get to know all of those kids. And so that's why I enjoy the work that I do and why I am an advocate for probably like y'all, you want to serve at the kind of institution that meets your needs, but also that fulfills you, and that's how I feel about working at Macalester.
Now, as you think back on all of your experiences, do you have any memorable things that come to mind? Maybe a program you started, maybe something you got started, maybe
Yeah,
somebody you helped, maybe a transition period that you
yeah.
took the school through or the program through at any of the schools you work for. Anything that's memorable?
Yeah, I talked a little bit earlier, just about the charter school experience and the being able to like develop programs to get them started, but also like I kind of miss dealing with those parents sometimes, right? We knew as hard as it was, I knew what our students were probably going home to at night, and I knew the time, the meals, the practices. I was I didn't have to be a father, but I was a part of that family unit in most cases, and I had the opportunity to help those students grow, learn, and develop a little bit differently. So that experience was special to me. When I was at Williams, I spent a lot of time focusing on diversity recruitment, and when I got to Williams, we probably had like 4 African American students on the football team. 5 years later, when I left Williams on that football team, not only did we have a critical mass of students, maybe we had roughly 30 students of color, but I would say I got to impact programs across the department. So working with admissions, I got to go recruit field hockey players and softball players. And some of those players started every game of their college career. I will take credit for that. But some of those players didn't, but still graduated and went on to do great things. And so to show folks that there's a pathway to, diversifying predominantly white spaces is a tough job, but if you're committed to it, and you build the support systems for students, like you can and you will be successful, and those students will go off to do great things and have fond memories of their institution. And there are going to be some challenges, I think, when you diversify these kind of institutions. It's inherently going to bring more conversations that people weren't prepared for. But at the end of all of those, there's a learning experience for everybody involved, and one that will possibly be life changing for folks, who have a ton of experience with it or none. So that was a great experience there. At Dartmouth, I think we built a program called the Dartmouth Peak Performance Program, and it was probably, to me, the most innovative program. I think it's been in Division One. I'll say we put sports psychology, nutrition, sports psychology, nutrition, strength and conditioning, leadership development, all under the same like umbrella. And so we took that model and just we're doing all kind of crazy stuff, buying, new technology, uh, you know, creating the fueling station before it became the most popular thing in Division One. I do think that that model is what I've taken everywhere to try to meet the needs of students academically, athletically, and socially. And what we call student athlete development in the NCAA is essentially, to me, like DP2, but more robust, is now, I think, become the model of student development everywhere across the country. These students we can't compartmentalize their lives. They're not just athlete. They're scholars, they're athletes. They have lives and social lives outside of sport, and we need to be aware and be able to adapt and be able to educate them on how to balance that well. And so it's kind of leading to the work that I've done since then. And then I'd say, at Millsaps College down in Jackson, Mississippi, that was the one that man, Jackson, Mississippi is a special place. If you never spent time down there, best food in the country. But at Millsaps, we were building, growing, doing some really special stuff, which has been continued by the coaches and administrators there since. But I do think when this job at Macalester opened up, I could not pass the opportunity up, and I get to work most days with a coach that you all know really well. His name's Abe Wodeslassy. He's a Macalester grad. I met him while working at Dartmouth. And to see Abe build his program that ultimately led us to the MIAC title game, that was a tipping point, or the turning point, I should say, that helped Macalester believe that dragons could be slayed, that we could slingshot the giant, but that's something that has never been done, can't been done. And since that moment, we've been doing something that we haven't done, I feel like, ever since. And just for example, like the other day at a track meet, we broke 31 personal records, right? So we're not focusing on everybody else. We're focusing on being our best selves. But our kids now know what's possible, and we've seen kids go to nationals now. Our GPA is like an average of 3.6, while our students are excelling on the playing surface. So I'd say that, to me, like, that's the one that everybody remembers, but there are more big memories to come. But ultimately, it's like seeing the evidence that students are healthy, they're graduating, and most importantly, is that they're going off to do great things when they graduate.
You also have an international feel
Yeah,
as well. I mean, when you go into the gym, you got all these flags all over from
yeah.
all different countries. How many countries, approximately how many countries are represented at the
You know,
McAllister?
I think we have roughly 90 different countries represented at Macalester as a whole. Not as many in the athletic department, but although many of our students aren't first generation immigrants, they are second generation And they bring their cultures and their identities with them. And so when you walk in and you see those flags, that represents not just them, it represents the families back home. And we want students to know that you could bring your whole selves with you when you come to Macalester. You don't have to check in just because you're in a space that you don't feel like was for you. No, this is for you. We are all of that. Uh, the greatest thing about Macalester is I can be myself, and I need y'all both to hear this. I'm kind of different. Don't let the sweater vest fool you today. I got it on, but this is not who we are. I could come in and be authentically myself. I could be funny, Donnie. I could be chill, Donnie. We're gonna get it done, but I don't have to. I don't feel like I have to talk a certain way. My father used to say, son, you have not mastered the English language yet. I don't have to feel like I walk in Macalester every day, with the jargon. I could truly be myself, and that's what I hope for my students. Like they're all brilliant, but come here and bring all of who you are to the table. Not only do I see that in my students, I see that in my coaches. So you've seen, some of my coaches and have written about them. Folks like L. Brown, who's now, the head coach at St. Cloud State, that's the conversation where we could walk down the hallway and, it just doesn't happen in institutions like mine enough. She could look at me and I could look at her and we know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And we could say it out loud in the hallway. Like to me, that should be everybody's dream to work in a culture like that.
Do you think it's important in the position that you're in, uh, as a black man, for other black students, young
Yeah.
people, to see you when when they walk in and to see that you're the athletic director, to see that that you're in charge,
Yeah.
and that gives them maybe some confidence that they could be doing that one day.
Yeah, I see a lot of young kids who find their way over to Macalester, both Macalester students and non-students, and I really feel like it's important, one, to dap folks up and say what's up to them, acknowledge their presence in our building, but to let them know, no matter where they come from or what they're coming for, that I'm here for them. I think like when we have guests and visitors, we get a lot of teams who show up to games. I think it's important that they see me and know who I am.
Mhm.
And though not everybody knows what the athletic director does, but
Right.
those who know now, and I appreciate those in the Twin Cities who come through and support Macalester and bring the youth to see us. My hope is that those students can take a deeper look when they look on our sideline, and then when they get to see us, like this is actually. And I think it's one of my biggest challenges in the Twin Cities is that I want families to know, don't let the price tag fool you. Macalester is a great institution with great financial aid, and we only recruit exceptional scholars. Like we want students who do really well in school, but there are a ton of scholarship opportunities for those students. We meet 100% full need, but I get to have this experience with black kids from California, with black
Mhm.
kids from New York City, not nearly enough with black students from the Twin Cities. But yeah, no, I think students who you meet and meet them on campus, you ask them, do you know Donnie? I try to make it a point to just, go introduce myself to students and connect with them and I let them know I'm on the south side of campus. Not everybody likes to come on down to the south side of campus.
Mhm.
But again, whether you score points for us or not, their presence and their impact on our community is really important because they're going to help us recruit the future students. But my hope is that people in the Twin Cities can come take a closer look, because there's something really special going on at Macalester. I talked a bit about the leadership. To me, at the end of the day, I think you want to look around and see other students healthy. Because I've been in a lot of schools where, you walk around campus and you look at the black students, we stressed out. That's probably one of the best things for me being at Macalester is my students they're looking good. But the great thing about being in the Twin Cities is they can get out of here when they need to. They could go to get their $10 college student ticket for the Timberwolves game. They could go to concerts. I've seen Kendrick Lamar at downtown St. Paul. I'm about to go see him at US Bank Stadium in April. Our students can have all of that. So my hope is not only can they have joy on campus and be authentically black and match wits with the best scholars in the country, but they could also like have a real life off campus and invest their time in, you know, social issues, or we've got an AKA and a Delta on campus now. So I'm excited about the to be in kind of that position to support those kind of students, no matter what their interests are.
Now, is there any future plans, like expansion of on campus, or anything that you see that you can talk about
Yeah.
in terms, because you don't have a whole lot of space. You're right there on Snelling Avenue and Grand, but is there still room to grow in that
Yeah,
space?
as far as Macalester athletics, yeah, we're there. We are landlocked, and so I think providing elite facilities, what I think we have is really great facilities, and so I think we just continue to enhance what we have. But when it comes to the institution, we have just released a strategic plan, and so what you'll see probably coming first are some new residence halls, as we want students to have a great living experience. And now students want to cook their own meals. They want a place to chill, to do some homework, but to cook and be in community with others. And so I think in the relatively near future, you could find photos on our website, but the residence halls are coming first. I do think, down the line, though, we have to always continue to modernize what we have. So when you come on our campus, you'll see, and y'all have seen this, like, I don't think our facilities look like typical Division III facilities. I think our facilities look like low major, probably Division I facilities, or mid major Division I facilities. And I think people are shocked when they come on. So I think, when you come on our campus, you'll see that they're well maintained. Shout out to our facility staff because they take really good care of the stuff we have. And we'll continue to do that until it's time for some kind of expansions. Is as far as like the expansion of sports, I do think like I just want to continue to take care of the 21 sports that I have really well, and invest in those sports as we can. But I do think, there's a lot of conversation about what's next in college sports. I think, women's lacrosse is one that I think is interesting, and we have teams in the Midwest and we have teams in the MIAC, and so I think there is some interest for schools in the Midwest to continue to expand there. I also think it may not be our first one, but I do think you start to see some like women's flag football starting here in the Midwest. And I know the Minnesota Vikings have interest in that, and the NFL has a strong interest in that. So it'll be interesting to see, but neither one of those will cause for us to expand our facilities, but to enhance those, I think will be in our long-term plans.
Well, Donnie, when I think the first time we met, it was one of the coldest days of the year, and I was trying to think. I don't know how long you're gonna be here,
Yeah.
but you've been there. It's almost 10 years.
It's been six.
Yeah.
I started year 7 in January. Yeah, I came here that year of the polar vortex. That was a mess. So I got here 2019, and then you think a year later, essentially, pandemic,
Yep.
George Floyd is murdered. I feel like my growth here was kind of stunted. Um, but it kind of, I'd say the one of the positive things that came out of all of the tragedy in 2020 and kind of the slow comeback in 2021, and I will say is may have been a part of our success, is kind of the adversity helps you go stronger. So there are a lot of schools who rush back to playing. We kind of took a measured approach to playing, and so we started practicing 10 feet apart, then 6 feet apart, always masked. Then we had a little contact, and when we finally got back to playing, we only played like 4 games, and we said we're only going to play against schools who will play with the rules because we just didn't know about the pandemic then. But if you'll play by our rules, we'll play. And we ended up playing St. Olaf for most of our matches. And the interesting thing is when we got those games and we played, we won. And so those 4 games or whatever it was, teams got to play the scrimmage versus Bethel. Like we got to compete, but also we got to say focusing on ourselves instead of focusing on everybody else is probably the best thing for us. St. Thomas going Division 1 didn't hurt either. You know, that opened up some opportunity.
Yeah, I bet it did.
But I feel like I really, take away 2000, that learning time and then that time of kind of a lot of uncertainty. I feel like I'm just like hitting year 5 really. And so that's why I feel like that turning point piece is really important because one, you got to have the belief. Two, you got to have the talent. Three, you got to have the willingness to invest. And so right now, what I say we have the willingness to invest. So we never really raised money at Macalester
Mhm.
to enhance the sport experience. We did in 2021. We really put a philosophy and started working on fundraising. And every year we raise more, so we're doing more with more. And I think the investment in students is something that's easy to sell. I say I'm investing in student development programming. So we have a program called Scott's Lead where my students are able to kind of get the kind of professional development that you would get if you were working for a Fortune 500 company. They've got Strengths Finder, they got the DISC assessment. They're working with leaders in the public and private sector to understand themselves as leaders better and how to lead others. I've got, multiple strength and conditioning coaches working with my kids year round, essentially, opening up our facilities to campus, not just making our student athletes better, but making our campus a healthier place. We've got a fueling station in our weight room. I've got a sports psychologist in house twice a week. Like, resources allow you to do more with more. So I get to watch the University of Minnesota and talk to my friend Stephanie Davis to figure out what they're doing to win more, and we're trying to replicate the same thing to scale. So I do think that to me is a game changer and will keep me motivated to do this thing for a long time to come. I also will say I watch what's going on at the Division 1 level, and I talked a little bit about the NIL and the transfer portal. And I think it's interesting. A friend of mine who's a Division 1 AD said to me, the job of athletic director at that level is changing, and what it feels like is you're going to have more owners and general managers. And I said, yeah, makes a whole lot of sense, right? And why couldn't we see Tesla having some ownership in the University of Texas to ensure that they have the you know, millions and bajillions of dollars that they need to continue to pursue championships. But um, right now, for us, I had a student come and ask me about NIL, and I said, well, really, NIL is another job. If you want to do NIL, you have full access to it. But the thing I'm going to invest time in is developing you into somebody who will graduate from here to go take the job, the internship, the fellowship, of your choice, and have multiple options of that. So if their ask I'm making, like to my alumni right now, resources to invest in student development, and then the second is internships. I need summer internships so we can keep kids here in the Twin Cities because I want them to be more than employable. And the job market's tough right now. But
Very.
I want them to be able to leave Macalester saying, I have the confidence and the skill set. I've got a toolkit that'll allow me to go pursue the kind of dreams that I have right out of school.
Uh, trying to think. What sports did you play?
I played uh I played in high school, I played primarily football,
Mm-hmm.
and then I picked up a lacrosse stick my senior year. Lacrosse coach came out to football practice, said, "We want some guys to come out and I know you don't have long, but and I fell in love with that game. But I bounced around a couple colleges before I found Springfield College, but I walked on at Springfield College, birthplace of basketball, where Dr. James Naismith put the peach basket on the wall and the students played the coaches in the first game. It is the coach's cradle still today, developing great coaches who go out and work in all spheres, college, high school, pro sports now. Um, and so I walked onto the football team there and played for 3 seasons and was on at least one excellent team. The Springfield College team this year just broke the national rushing record that I think we had back in 2001, but had a great experience there. But was often injured and very average for a couple years, but had one good one. That's all I can remember very well.
What position did you play?
I was an offensive tackle. We ran a triple option, so I spent a lot of my
Oh,
time trying to chase down linebackers and an occasional safety. Yeah, every once in a while I got it right.
Now, did that experience help you, um, in your career later? Like, did you learn some things that you use, some skills that you use today?
Yeah, when you're an offensive lineman, there's no glory for you. In fact, I think the question I got asked most by my friend is, "Why are you on the ground so much?" Um, but I do think what you learn is everybody's got a role to play. And in order for the team to move forward, everybody's got to have a certain amount of humility, in order for us to get there. And so I try to operate and really look to hire really humble people who understand the team concept. But I think the thing that within that piece, everybody can lead. So I've got a certain personality style, which is way different than the a lot of folks on my staff. But there's leadership within all of that. And I spend a lot of time with and being trained with the disc assessment. And so everybody's got a different style, but everybody has the ability to lead and be exceptional as a leader. And so I spend a lot of time trying to people read and figure out what's in people, what they're about, and what their style is. But what I realize is, just because you don't have a title of captain doesn't mean that you uh, can't and shouldn't be leading. You should be, no matter who you're. It's not the loudest person.
Mhm.
Um, it's not the most accurate person all the time. It's not the gung ho leader, but everybody's got some leadership skills within them, and when you could tap into that, but also when you could bring that out of others, and figure out what motivates them and what helps them go to get you all going together, you can build a really really powerful group. And I feel that to me is what I spend a lot of time doing. I have a lot of different folks with a lot of different motivations, and trying to figure out what those motivations are and help them understand what winning looks like and help them feel like they're winning, is gonna be a part of the success story for Macalester. There's no to me, no two leaders are exactly alike. But as soon as we figure out who they are and what motivates them, we could then coach them better. And we need them to understand, who they are, what motivates them too. But I do feel like, that Scott's Lead program, helping our students understand that day one, is a big part of what's helping us. And ultimately, what has me in the chair of athletic director is I realize I don't have to be yelling at folks.
Mhm.
I don't have to be down your throat to get the most out of you. I have to figure out what motivates you and helps drive you. And then once I know that, I could help get you to where we need to go.
Well, Donnie, we usually offer an opportunity to our guests to speak to our audience, what we call sharing pearls of wisdom.
Uh,
And we feel that you, as all our guests has had an opportunity to do that, and we don't want to take that away from you.
Did we have fun here? I felt like it was so serious tonight. Do y'all have fun? Do people have fun here?
I had fun.
Man, I feel like I sat up here pontificating like a professor. Um,
You're fine.
yeah, whether I don't know, the nuggets of wisdom, I always think of like I was talking to a black AD today, and I asked him, like, what's your what's the last mistake you made? We all get to talk about our successes too much, but we don't get to break down the challenges in a forum where we feel safe. Uh, and so, my I guess my nugget of wisdom is, figure out who you're gonna share those stories with, because we're all dealing with something. We're all got a challenge we're facing, whether that's professionally, personally. And some people go to therapy. I call up a group of friends, and I have a group of ADs who we have kind of like an open Zoom line on Wednesdays. I could hop on and just if I got a problem, I could share that with them. But there's nothing that gives me more relief than for me to be able to share that. And then everybody knows, we're dealing with something. The worst is for us to think that we're dealing with this by ourselves. So my nugget of wisdom is if you don't have your personal or professional advisory board, get one. Those are the folks who, when I'm really going through it, whether it be, what's going on with my dating 17-year-old, or my 6-year-old. I got a senior and a first grader. Imagine the kind of challenges I'm dealing with. But also like professionally, every day it seems like there's something new, whether that be an executive order
Mhm.
that we're not prepared to make, immediate changes with and for, you know, just or a simple mistake that you've been beating yourself up about. I think the question you asked about mentoring, not I don't know if I'd call these folks my mentor, but my hope is you all out there have a group of people who you can hop on the phone with at any time, whether that be a Zoom line or they don't do three-way calls anymore. The merge call that you could hop on and talk to about those hard things because we're not going through it alone. There are a lot of folks dealing with the challenges of the day.
Okay. Well, thank you, Donnie, for spending time with us. We
Yeah.
know you have a enormous job. Any athletic director, I don't care what level you are, that's got to be
Uh,
a challenging job to keep people happy and to keep people online.
that
Uh,
that's a whole nother podcast.
but we also appreciate you stepping in, coming in. We try to focus on people who don't get a chance to get focused on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we appreciate that taking the time to come with us today.
Yeah, I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the folks who I'd call in that advisory board, there is a new black athletic director in our conference, and she's not so new. She's been there a little over a year. Jessica Cherry is at the College of Saint Scholastica.
Okay.
And interesting enough, she was while I was doing my thing up at Williams College, we got to know each other. She was at a small Division III in New York. She was assistant men's basketball coach there and administrator. And so we've known each other for a really long time. So to see her in this great conference, with Saint Scholastica joining us as St. Thomas moved on to Division I is pretty cool, and I think the other thing that to me is like it shows the evolution and why programs and investment is so important. The same program that got me into the NCAA and that job at Williams, I say is responsible for a good number of the 40 plus black Division III ADs. There was a time where when I was a young administrator, there were like 10 ADs in Division III. We had 400 schools, so imagine there are like 10 black ADs there. Now we got 40 plus, and to look at the schools where they're the ADs, Mount Union football powerhouse has a black AD. Uh, MIT, the toughest school to get into in the world, has a black AD. Wash U down in St. Louis, the second best school in the Midwest, has a black AD. Carleton for a long time had a black AD. Pomona Pitzer, top academic school on the West Coast, billions, gajillions of dollars in endowment, has a black AD. So to see colleagues and peers doing like unbelievable work and excelling in Division III athletics, it's like it gets me going every day, and I wake up thinking about possibly being able to play in a national championship versus one of my friends slash colleagues at one of those institutions. All right, I'll stop there. Listen, thank y'all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing your experiences with us.
Well, how many views is this gonna get? We're gonna get 100 people to watch this.
Get more. The mayor tell us how many we get. But thank you, Donnie, for being with us. This is Blacklight on Sports. My name is Charles Hallman,
I'm Dr. Mitchell Palmer McDonald.
and we will appreciate you. Continue to read us in the paper and online, and we hope that you join us soon.